everybody, this is Jason Lipshutz, Senior Director of Music at Billboard, and welcome to another exciting conversation as part of the 30th anniversary celebration of Billboard Latin Music Week. I'm very pleased to be joined by Brazilian pop superstar Anitta, as well as three-time Grammy Award-winning songwriter and producer, as well as the leader of One Republic, Ryan Tedder, who is executive producing Anitta's forthcoming album. Welcome to both of you guys.
Woo! That's the audience clapping.
I'm very happy to be joined by Anitta and Ryan for this discussion. I have a few questions for both about Anitta's forthcoming album, Girl from Rio, which Ryan executive produced, and we'll also squeeze in a few fan-submitted questions at the end of our discussion. Thank you to all of those who submitted questions. That's very exciting. But first, congrats are in order for you, Anitta. Me Gusta, your new single with Cardi B and Mike Towers recently became your very first Hot 100 entry. Congrats, and how did you find out? What was your reaction to that news?
Yeah, oh my God. I actually was like waking up, and then I checked on my cell phone, and there was like, I don't know how many thousands messages of my team and fans and friends say, oh my God, not Sen is Portuguese. What Hot 100 on Billboard? I can't believe it. For me, it was very special. I had no expectations with the track, not because I don't like the track, not because of anything. It was just because I'm a new artist for this market, you know, singing in English, having a whole team working on it. Before everything, I had no management. I had no people like helping me to build everything that I was doing. And this was like my first time releasing something that I have a whole team together with me, supporting me and giving me all of this this hard work for the song to be great. We have Cardi B on it, we have Mike Towers, but even with all of this, I wasn't expecting such a great result with the song, you know. I'm always expecting the worst, so if comes the best, I get happy.
I love that. You keep the expectations low, and then you keep just breaking right past them. I love it. Now, Ryan, you have had more than your fair share of Hot 100 hits. What was it like for you to see the song debut on the Hot 100? Concerning your involvement with Anitta's album and seeing this project launch on such a strong note.
Anitta and I are very similar in that regard. I have been lucky enough to have had for a large portion of my career some success in the Hot 100 charts and Billboard charts. I have such limited expectations, even at the best of times with charts and hits and things like that, because I've been doing this, or I've been messing around with the Billboard chart since about 2006, 2007, and in those 13, 14 years, some of the songs that I would have bet my life on that were the absolute biggest hits, the stars didn't align, the timing was off, the songs that you think that, like, every time you release a song, no matter how good the artist is, no matter how good the song is, no matter how good everything is, there's 20,000 different things that are running interference, keeping that song from being a hit. Culture, the news, what else came out that week, there's just so many things that can run interference on it. And so to have it react the way that it did, I got the most excited, honestly, about when I saw that we had gotten more than 2 million streams within 24 hours, and we were outpacing some other really, really big, huge artists who I'm not gonna mention in this interview at YouTube. That told me that her fan base was reacting, people who have never discovered her are reacting. So I'm thrilled with how it's going. And the beauty about Anitta, everybody wants to work with her. There's not one person we talk to who's like, no. It's Cardi reaching out to her, wanting to work with her. Like, everything has just been so phenomenal. I think that's just the good karma that Anitta has earned, and she works as hard as any artist I've ever worked with. So that makes it 10 times easier too.
What was that call like Cardi B reaching out to work
Wow,
with you, Anitta?
for me, it was some time ago actually. She went to Ryan's studio after we talked, because I was there working on the next album, and she reached out to me by DM on Instagram and said like, hey, let's do something together. I love your music. I love Brazilian culture. And she knows how big and how much effort the Brazilian fan base put on the ones that they love, and they really love her, and they were really asking her to do some things with Brazilian culture. And the reason why I think nobody here had so many great expectations was because we are showing new kinds of rhythms, you know? It's not about putting out a song with things that people are already used to listen to, you know? It's still very different and urban rhythms from Brazil that we're bringing and introducing to the audience. So that's why we were like not expecting like so many amazing results because of this, because of the culture that is so different. And we thought that it was gonna take a while, even having like Cardi that's huge and Mike Towers that it's huge in the Latin world. I think that introducing new rhythms and new culture to the audience is always a challenge, you know, and we are bringing two very, because here in Brazil, the urban rhythms, they are not like the other Latin countries, because I know Brazil is a Latin country, but we speak Portuguese. The other countries, they speak Spanish. And this language thing makes it so hard for the countries to get together. The culture is so different. There are people, the famous people here in Brazil, nobody knows in the Latin countries. When I say Latin countries, it's like the Latin countries that speak Spanish. And the same happens here. Very famous people in the Latin countries, they don't even know who they are here in Brazil. So we are very close, but at the same time, very separated. So it's a lot of work to put together, and we brought this urban music from Brazil, which is funk, and also pagodão from Bahia. They are the rhythms that the popular people, the people from the favelas, like the place I came from, that's the sound that they are used to, and that's why they suffer a lot of prejudice too. So for me, I was like, okay, how people are gonna receive that, you know?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting you bring that up. I was going to ask about the process of bridging Portuguese and Spanish and bridging that gap in your lyrics and in your music. Specifically now at this really critical point in your professional career, is that something that it sounds like you've really thought about long and hard, and I'm just curious as to moving forward, you know, what you've learned over the past few years in terms of bridging that gap and what you'd like to accomplish moving forward.
Yeah, I think music, entertainment in general, movies, series, whatever, they have the power to change somehow the population, you know, a little bit of how they're gonna think. If you send a message, even if it's indirectly, they're gonna finish up like thinking about some subject that you put it on a track. They're very hidden inside the song. They start to think about it. And for me, it's very important because I always felt like, oh my God, we are such a close countries, you know, Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, and they're so separated because of the language. So I think music has this power, not only music, but movies, series, whatever. So another thing that made me very happy and I wasn't expecting, Brandon, my manager, was who introduced me to Ryan, and he told me all of the background that Ryan has, all of the Grammy stuff and all of the Billboard stuff. And when I was getting into the studio, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna work right now with a very big person. I don't even know how to react. And I got there like quiet, and the first thing he said was like, okay, tell me everything about your culture. Show me all of the songs about that is popping in Brazil, all of the rhythms. I want to understand everything about Brazil so we can cook music for you, like unique music that nobody else could sing, just yourself. And I was like, oh my God, he's so humble. I was very happy with this. I wasn't expecting, because mostly when I get into the studios and I try to explain, educate people about how it's two completely different worlds, the Latin world and the Brazilian world, they are always like, okay, let's go, trap music, hip hop. And Ryan, no, he was like, no, let's do a mix. Let's mix everything. They're gonna have a Brazilian thing, reggaeton thing, radio pop music thing, and I loved it.
That's incredible. That is that's an amazing story. And Ryan, you're someone, as to paraphrase Anitta, the Grammy stuff, the Billboard stuff. I mean, you've worked with artists like Adele and Beyonce and Taylor Swift and dozens more. I'm curious in terms of what you identified about Anitta as a vocalist, as a pop personality, as someone whose culture you really wanted to pour yourself into.
So I think that I've thought for the past 2 years that the future is very much, and I know Brazilian music in Brazil is its own, I would say, geography inside the Latin subculture or Latinx culture, but the future is Latin. The future of music and culture, I think South America in general as a continent is slowly gate crashing the streaming world and musical culture. And I could list half a dozen artists right now from Colombia, Cali El Dandy, Andres and Mauricio, who are two of the biggest Latin producers, Latin Grammys. They've got more songs listed than any other producers 2 years in a row. And Sebastian Yatra and Kea and Argentina, Brazil. South America is having a moment. It's been brewing for a while. And Latin music, Brazilian music, to be honest, the first sessions I had were probably 4 or 5 years ago. They were, one of the first ones was with Luis Fonsi. They were so much fun. And at this stage in my career, I just don't want to do anything that isn't fun. I want to do things that are inspiring to me and that are fun and challenging. I probably would have a lot more hits if I just stuck to what I mastered, you know what I mean? If I just did ballads, like when I first started having my success and hits, everybody wanted Halo Part 2 or Apologize or Bleeding Love, just give me one of those. And I could have just kept doing that same thing. And the phrase that I use often is, I'm only comfortable when I'm uncomfortable. So I don't like, to me, the challenge of Anitta and understanding Brazilian music and not just doing it lip service, but really getting it and collaborating with Brazilian baile funk producers and writers. That was part and parcel of cracking the code on Anitta. I came into it with intimidated in a different way. She's the biggest artist in Brazil, the biggest export musically and culturally from Brazil at this point. She could run for president and probably win. So I want to respect that fan base that she already has and not do a disservice to them. I've been to Brazil. We've played Rock in Rio. I fell in love with Rio and Sao Paulo, the food, the culture, the people, the favelas. All of it to me was just so beautiful and different. And I was like, all right, I want to have a whole new chapter in my own world as a writer-producer where I do way more Latin music, whether it's Portuguese, or in Spanish. And I liked the challenge.
Anitta, you are a superstar in Brazil and could very well continue to just be a superstar for Brazil, in Brazil for years to come. But I'm curious as to making that jump into the U.S. pop mainstream world, and why now was the right time to partner with Warner Records proper and focus on a proper U.S. debut album? Why now, and how did that happen?
So when I was 23, I started to get all of the to win all of the biggest awards here in Brazil as the best singer, best female singer, best song. And then I like challenge, and I don't like to be stuck. And I started to imagine myself. I was like 23, and I was like, okay, so that's how it's gonna be my life until like forever. No, I don't want that. And then I started to search about what I could do more, like what challenge could I go for it. And someone in the meeting of this industry people, they said, oh, the only thing, I think it's international career, but this is impossible. And I hate this word, impossible. I hate this word. For me, nothing is impossible. And then I said, why impossible? And they said, oh, because all of the biggest artists here in Brazil, they have tried for years and years. We don't get a person since Bossa Nova, Sergio Mendes, these people from a long time ago. We don't get a Portuguese artist to go out for so long. It's impossible. And I was like, okay, so you just, I'm Aries, you know, this is my sign. I'm Aries. I can't listen to this word impossible. So I said, okay, let's see if that's impossible. And then I started to search about it, and I figured out why it's impossible for the majority of the people. Because Brazil is big enough. You know, we have more than 200 million people here. So 24 states. You can be famous here, rich, live your artist life, and then travel and be anonymous and have fun with another life, and you're happy. So for you to go out to search about, to learn other language like I did, learning Spanish, understanding the Spanish culture, like for the interviews, I needed to know all about the old singers of the Latin countries, all about how the rhythms were born. It's so much work that you need to do, and so much time that you put out of Brazil. So you stop making money to spend money to go for something that you don't know if that's gonna happen or not. And then I realized that the best way for me was to do exactly what I did here in Brazil. When I started here, I used to suffer a lot of prejudice because my rhythm, which is funk, came from favelas, came from this poor and humble place. And the other people, the class A, if we can say like that, they were very prejudiced about funk music and the funk artists. They used to arrest people who were singing funk. It was super crazy. And I suffered a lot, and it was a long way. And I understood that I needed to go step by step. So I started doing one song in Spanish. First of all, I learned Spanish. Then I started to do one song in Spanish, release it in Mexico, which was like the center of the business, of the industry for these Latin countries here. And then I got the Downtown with J Balvin, which got pretty big. But all of this time, I was being my own manager. I was doing my own strategy. And all of these strategies was for me to get the right person to manage me the way I thought that it was necessary.
My last question is, well, you know, obviously people are really excited about this album. People are really excited about your work with Ryan and Me Gusta. But what would you like to see more of in the next year and a half, 2 years, in terms of amplifying Brazilian music on a global stage? Obviously you're doing your part and you're doing a great job, but in terms of other artists, in terms of greater understanding of the Brazilian culture, what would you like to see more of in the near future?
My goal is to hear the funk rhythm as much as we hear the reggaeton right now, you know, to make the funk rhythm something like reggaeton is. That's why we are, and me and Ryan, where Ryan he's an expert on it. So he had this careful of because funk is very heavy, okay? The real funk. We have a little bit of this on Me Gusta, but the funk of the streets here are really heavy. So we gotta introduce a little bit and then a little bit more and a little bit more. So my goal is to see people enjoying funk as much as they are enjoying, as reggaeton is having its moment right now. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I think I have the same goal too, because funk, I first heard it when I was in 2015 at Rock in Rio, and Anitta was just blowing up with that stuff, and I was just kind of fascinated by it. Baile funk, and there's a bunch of different iterations of what they call funk, and that's, first of all, one takeaway that I'd like after this Anitta's first album is that your average Anglo music listener knows that Brazilian funk is not like American, like normal, what we think of as like funky. It's not Bruno Mars, it's not Sly and the Family Stone or like Parliament funk. It's not like bass slapping stuff. Because when I say funk, people are like, oh, I know funk music. I'm like, no. Baile funk, Brazilian funk. Like, they don't, educating people on what that is. And I think Me Gusta helps do that. I think Me Gusta helps do that. We have a handful of other songs on the album that go deeper into the funk territory. And I think a good example that Anitta just said is reggaeton. Like, your average American didn't really mess around with that until Latin artists started introducing reggaeton into American culture, and it slowly crept in. And like dance music, radio didn't play songs that had drops in them, like DJ drops, right? Until like 2013, 14, that was a very specific genre of music that was left in like house clubs and like European discos and discotheques and clubs and festivals, and it wasn't mainstream culture until 2000, well, more like 2012, 13, 14, Swedish House Mafia, David Guetta, Calvin Harris, and all of a sudden, like in 2009, radio DJs in America and the UK would say, we can't play a song that has like 30 seconds of just an instrumental drop. Like, you can't do that on radio, right? And then 2 years later, they're playing Calvin Harris, Feel So Close. And it's just da-da-da-da-da-da, right? So music changes. It starts with one artist trying to do something different, introducing a new genre on the back of a hit record or a series of hit records. And then my hope is that funk, baile funk, and even she has some bossa nova stuff too, which is more familiar Brazilian music. But my hope is that baile funk 2 years from now is all over American and global radio, and then it becomes more of a cultural like mainstay. And I think that Anitta, no one else is gonna do it. Like, Drake tried to do it actually, like 6 months ago. He dropped a single where he was, messing around with some funk rhythms, and I think doing it authentically is critical. And what I've learned about funk is you can't do it on a graph on a computer where it's quantized and mechanical. It has to be done with your hands. It has to be done with a human natural swing. That's why the beat has such a unique sound to it. It's the human quotient. Making a funk beat is a very human thing that you can't just do it in Pro Tools or in Ableton just with a loop. It doesn't work that way.
I'm gonna go really quickly through some of the fan questions. So Anitta, first fan question is, what was it like filming the Me Gusta music video?
It was very good to shoot the Me Gusta music video, even because I could introduce to Mike Towers a little bit of my country. I know we didn't have that much time, but I think he really enjoyed it, and people were really kind with him. So I think the best thing of shooting it was to be able to show up a little bit of my country to him, because I'm always traveling and talking about my country, but it's not always that I get the opportunity to show it in person.
Love it. The next fan question, Where did the title Girl from Rio come from for your next album?
The name of the album, Girl from Rio, comes from one of the names of one of the songs of the album, which is Girl from Rio, which is my favorite track, by the way. Don't tell anyone.
And the last fan question, I don't know if you can answer this one, but does your album have any other big collaborators? Obviously, you had Cardi and Mike Towers on Me Gusta. Any other hints in terms of who else is on that track list?
Well, if we get the information that my manager did a surprise with me putting Cardi B on a track without my knowledge, just because, of course, he knew that I love her and that she's like a queen for me. That's why he did the surprise. But knowing that he likes to make some surprises, I have no idea who can comes into my album. I swear to God, I'm not lying.
I love it. Well, Anitta and Ryan, thank you both again so much for your time and thoughts during the 30th anniversary celebration of Billboard Latin Music Week. It was such a pleasure speaking with you both, and be sure to keep your eyes open for more songs from Girl from Rio coming out shortly.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, you guys. Anitta, I love you. Obrigado. Ciao.